Welcome back to Have You Met Her Yet? Today I have my father, Tim Mitchell,
Hello.
who is our first male guest that we're going to have. So I thought it would be really cool to have my dad on here. He is a lot of the reason why I've become an entrepreneur, and a lot of my business ideas and influence and etc. came from him, and I thought, why not have someone who has influenced another female to start their own business and hear a little bit more about his story. So thanks so much for joining me, Dad.
Thanks for having me.
So first off, I would love for everyone to know a little bit more about you, who you are, what you do. You can start as far back as your first job, or maybe what brought you into the role that you have now.
Yeah. Well, I graduated college, business administration, and sort of fell into real estate because I went and took the course and expected to just stay in a few years, but I got into it and I was truly alone. My dad owned the company, but he was upstairs managing everybody. My brother was in the company and he didn't really help. He was busy with his own thing, so I literally had to start on my own. Did not make a lot of money in the beginning, made about $1,200 the first year, and hung in there, and next year made about $4,000, and then the next year over 50.
Wow.
So it took 3 years to get going, but it truly had to be a self-starter. So
what drew you to real estate? So as you mentioned, your father, so my grandfather, was in the business. Can you share a little bit more about why you were drawn to that? Was it just because your father did it? What about it made you think, hey, I want to test this out?
the truth is, I really thought it was great not really having a boss. I like the idea that I could just come in, if I want to stay out late, come in at 12, I could stay a couple hours and that, but it turned out to be the exact opposite. As soon as I started, I was coming in at 8, wanting to be driven to get going and trying to learn how to get going. So that turned out to be the opposite. You get no paid holidays, so, whatever you take, right?
Yeah. I think that is probably one of the number one things that is false about being an entrepreneur and being your own boss is, yes, of course, you get to create your own schedule. Yes, of course, you can take vacation whenever you want. But for the most part, there's no one telling you what to do. And sometimes that's really hard. So since you've been an entrepreneur now for over 40 years, is that correct? Okay, so for over 40 years, can you tell us a little bit more about what your routine is like? What are some of the lessons that you've learned? What keeps you motivated to continue to be successful and be your own boss?
Well, 2 things really changed my life. One was concentrating on a couple of clients and servicing them the best I could. So I learned that in order to get listings out of people, it's very difficult, especially for leasing. But once you show them your added value, which I did, I started to get more and more. And I would make sure that I would always update them every week. Every week I'd phone them and give them an update because people are always worried, you're not doing anything when you get a listing. I'd be in their face all the time, letting them know that I was working hard. Second thing I did that really changed my life was I developed a plan in writing. I literally got a piece of paper and I figured out when I used to work at the Toronto Star driving vans while I was in school, I was making, say, $5 an hour. Okay, so I thought to myself, well, if I want to make $10 an hour, how much do I have to do? So what I did was I divided it into the year. So say I wanted to make $60,000. Then I divided it into 12 for months, and then I divided it into the days, and then the hours. And I figured out if I wanted to make that, whatever the number was I had in mind, I had to make $35 an hour. That's outrageous. But what I was finding in the second year of me doing it, by February, I'd already made enough money to be in June on my letter, right? So I was going, wow, this is crazy how much this works. So I'm thinking, wow, I'm making $80 or $90 an hour already this year. This is insane. So I kept doing that for a number of years. I only stopped it about 20 years ago, but I did. It really motivated me to look at that. I also could look at it that I'm falling behind. It's May right now, and I'm only at February money. Well, I got to do something to get this thing going, right? So that was a real changer for me.
So because we're in January right now, when did you typically start something like that? And how often did you look at your plan? As you mentioned, you looked at May sometimes and you were either ahead or behind. So how often were you checking your numbers? Were you checking in with yourself? When did you start?
Every day I open my drawer, it's sitting right there.
Okay.
So I bring it out and I would analyze it pretty well every day with the morning coffee, right? Another thing I started doing was building flyers that I would get printed and delivered to all of Brampton. And pretty soon that was really working out well. But getting signs up is what really changed things. Like I got so many signs around town, people suddenly start to think you're the only one in town, because it's not like houses
Right.
where you've got thousands and thousands of
Right.
other agents. There's 2 or 3 that do what I do. So if you try to eliminate all the others just by, at some point, it's been difficult lately because there's no space available in Brampton. It's crazy. There's nothing out there. I've got a few signs. I've got a few listings. Luckily, I'm at an age where, I don't have to really.
Right.
But I'm trying to get it back. I'm just slowly but surely calling back all my old clients and trying to get them,
Right.
see if they're pushing tenants out or what's going on.
Okay, so before we get too ahead of ourselves, can you deep dive a little bit more into exactly what you do? So I know you mentioned real estate, but can you share a little bit more?
Yeah.
You don't do residential.
I do.
You do residential.
Yeah, I do 3 or 4 houses a year for family, or someone who says they've been done badly by an agent. Everybody seems to say that.
Right.
But yeah, I'll always help somebody. Just help your brother get a house. I do commercial leasing, so whenever there's an empty store you see, I'm generally the one getting that store and renting it for the owner. Or a plaza, I deal with someone for so long, they're going to sell it eventually. I want it to be with me, so when that time comes, usually I get to sell it. Land development, someone wants to build a plaza, I'll get some land, and then we'll pre-lease it for them. Farmland has been a big thing, where not much anymore, because Brampton's pretty well out of land.
Right.
Selling farmland's been very good as well.
And so what drew you to commercial as opposed to residential? I know you mentioned you do a little bit of residential, but what was the draw? What was the reason why that's your thing now?
My dad's office developed a commercial department about 5 years before I started. And it was just, my brother went in and was extremely successful. So I just thought, well, I'll give it a try. Even though we both went different directions in what we did, that's why I did it, because I could see the success that was there. And I thought, why not give it a try?
Okay.
So, and I did.
So what would your advice be to someone who is either starting in real estate or starting in an industry to test out what they should like and where that success would be? Like, what advice could you give to someone to figure out what their niche would be?
Well, make sure it's something you're passionate about, for starters. But the big thing is getting into your community. Like I learned really young that getting out and volunteering, although you don't like it in the beginning because you get in there, but you start making friends with people that are in there. And next thing you know, you've got a lawyer friend, got a doctor friend, you've got a guy who owns a grocery store. You know what I mean? Before you know it, you're right in with all of those people, and then they're calling you for business and you're calling them for business, right? So I always would get on a board, and when I became chairman of whatever board it was, and we were trying to get gifts or whatever, I always had key people on my board. So if we needed a bank, the TD girl would be there. And if we needed a restaurant, the Jake's Boathouse guy would be there. You know what I mean? So before you know it, you've got almost all your prizes built in already.
Right.
But then you start to appreciate your community. I was the chairman of the board of the hospital for 2 years, and the Heart and Stroke Foundation, et cetera, just all stuff that I really liked. And you moved up through the ranks with people, and I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
You've definitely done a lot of volunteer work, a lot of philanthropy work.
Yeah.
So you mentioned before, it's something that you feel you need to do, especially for business sake. What drove you to want to be a part of that and to work your way up to being a part of a board, to be a president on something, to make those big decisions, to put your time and effort? You had a family, you have your own business. What about it made you want to be hungry for more and to help and to give back to the community that you're part in?
It's kind of a hunger. It's like exercise. I know when I have a routine I have to do an exercise, I can't stand it, but I keep saying to myself, I'm a quarter way through it. I'm halfway through it. But when it comes to volunteering, I just enjoyed it. It would go on my calendar, like if I was going to a rock concert or a dinner, it would just be in my calendar. And when it come up, I knew I had to do it, and I made sure I enjoyed doing it or I wouldn't do it.
Right.
And I've been involved in situations where I realized right away it wasn't my cup of tea. People were controlling or whatever, and I just said, look, I'll just go to find something else.
Right. And so what would you say, is there any sort of advice you can give to someone where they don't know where to start? They don't have any particular interest. They're not tied to any particular cause at all. Right. What would your advice be? Like, how did you find the ones that you liked? Did you try a few different ones? Did you have friends or family that drew you to that? Like, what kind of advice can you give to someone who is looking to be a part of something like that in the future?
Mostly I got asked, but if not, if it was something that I wanted to do, I'd start at the bottom. Like at the hospital foundation, what I started at was just on a little committee, and then you'd sort of go to another committee. You just sort of work your way up. You get liked by the people in there and go from there, but you have to like it. There's no other way to do it. But what I would recommend somebody does is just go out, you'll find something. There's so many things. Like I can't tell you how many times I've been bugged by Rotary and Lions Club over the years. So there are people out there looking for people to join, but that wasn't my cup of tea. But no, there's so much. Just open a newspaper. Go on the internet. Like if you're in Vancouver, just go on Vancouver internet. Local pages, and you'll find something that you like. Okay. And try a few out. They don't have to all be winners.
Yeah.
Maybe you go to the dog pound, and next thing you know, you're on their board. Right.
Right. No, that's really good advice. I always remember going as your date to some of these events where I would go to a charity something or something with work, and that to me was firsthand experience of seeing what work life would be like, what it would be like to volunteer, and just seeing the strategies that you did to do that sort of thing. And I think that's where I got my confidence to network and want to learn more and know more people. And for me as a business owner, I know networking has been really, really, really amazing for me. Yeah. Do you have any tips on networking? There's a lot of people out there that are timid. They don't want to do it. They hate it. What would your best advice be for people to be networking, and maybe what are the benefits that you found from networking?
The networking is as simple as going to the gas station and making a habit of chatting with the guy. There's a guy down the street from us that's a gas station. I go in there all the time, and I ended up getting him to buy a little building because I give him my card one day. I just thought, oh boy, this guy's really warming up to me. He's interested. He asked questions about real estate. I give him my card. Next thing you know, he called me and said, can you help me find a building? So everywhere you go, the girl at the grocery store, the post office, the variety store, everybody could be your client.
Right.
Whatever you're selling, you can let it slip out. Yeah. Whatever it is, right?
I've definitely learned that lesson for sure directly from you. I mean, anywhere we would go, I feel you would make a conversation, and it just happens to come up. I mean, especially with real estate, there's always people who are looking, always people who are searching for new projects, new ideas, etc. And it's true, you wouldn't believe how often you mention a small thing of what you do and someone's interested, or they know someone who needs your services, or in the future, they think of you right away because maybe you made that impression on them. So that's such a really, really, really good lesson for people to know. So with networking, with volunteering, was that all you, or did that come from anyone else? Is there anyone else that kind of influenced you in the family, or friends, or business, or anything like that? Well,
my dad was a real volunteer in the community. He did a lot, and I very, very much envied the work that he did. And he did it. I followed very much in his footsteps when it comes to that. I did try to excel a little more in the things that I did, but that's just natural, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there is a very clear line of entrepreneurship in our family. I mean, stemming from him, stemming for yourself, stemming from me. So I guess one thing, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but thinking about myself and when I was in school and beginning to think about careers and stuff, did you ever think that I would be an entrepreneur? Like, what did you think about me taking that step?
I think you're exactly where I thought you'd be. You're always the person who asks a million questions. Like if you ever get in a conversation with Lindsay, be prepared when one question's come. She's not walking away. She will not. She's going to hit you with 300. And I loved it because I wanted her to learn. And everything she asked about were always smart questions as far as I'm concerned. There's no dumb questions, right? But no, you're very inquiring, very inquisitive. And no, I knew you'd be right where you are now.
Thank you. That's
for sure. Yeah, we're very proud of you.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. And again, just seeing through the eyes of yourself and through Papa, your father, it's infectious seeing the success and seeing the legacies that you guys have left upon other people. And that's always what I've wanted to do too, is leave a good impression, make people feel happy, make them feel successful, doing what you love, being passionate, etc. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, we talked a little bit about clients and sales and etc. I know for myself, I constantly have to remind myself that you're not bugging people. You need to follow up. What is your strategy on following up with people? Is it you're calling them and then you're never talking to them again? Like, right. What is your magic number on continuing to follow up with people? What are your strategies with that?
Yeah, it's real easy. I always corner them with a date. So if I called you today and said, can I help you? You'll say, oh no, I'm not thinking of anything like that for months. They'll say, what, 2 months? Yeah, okay. I will call you on January 8th. I'm sorry, I'll call you on March 8th, right, around 10 a.m. And I'll put it in my book and I'll call them and it'll blow them away, right? And then they'll be ready, but you're in their mind now as somebody who's, they do what they say. So, yeah. And always just bring up if you can help someone. You know, anything I can ever do, make sure that, you know, I don't want to be in your way. I don't want to bother you. But if there's ever anything, I'm there for you because I'm the only guy in town for you to deal with.
Right. And do you have any secrets or things that you can share that you have found have brought you success?
I treat my clients like they're part of my family, literally. And if they don't like that, then they're dealing with the wrong person.
Right.
And what happens is I've had other people that I've allowed to come in and partner, and I've given them too much control, and almost every single time I've lost the client. Right? Because I treasure my clients, and then I'll have the other person say to me, well, you know, the guy's wasted so much of my time, like I'm not going to keep calling them back every 10 minutes. Then they're gone. And I said, well, now the other agent's making $40,000 a year off that client. Like, I'd be happy to make the $40,000 if they're, you know, if they're going to be high maintenance.
Right.
You know, you get a couple of them, that's all you need, right? But if you lose them, you put all that work into it just because someone else has got lazy and can't handle them the way you want to handle them.
Right. I think that's a really hard thing is, you know, I've recently added interns to my team, and of course you want everyone to do the same type of work that you do, and sometimes it's really hard when people don't put the same effort or the same care or the same knowledge. So are you able to share what is the hardest lesson you've learned in being an entrepreneur and running your business?
That's probably the hardest.
One.
Other than that, it hasn't really been hard. It's hard working, not getting a salary, knowing that, you know, you could make a lot today, and that's okay. But if you don't make a lot until the end of December, you've sort of got to make your way through the year, right? You sort of almost have to have a salary to yourself. Right.
That completely makes sense. So on that note, you know, you're hustling all year trying to do this. I know that throughout your career, you've taken on a lot of newbies, a lot of people that you've mentored. Why have you done that? Like, what is in it for you, and why do you feel that it's important to mentor people coming into your industry?
Before I answer that, I just want to follow up on what I was saying, is that don't spend too much time on someone you're not going to make money with.
Right.
Because sometimes you get very, very passionate doing that, and it puts you in a bad spot. But one thing I can tell you is to make $100 commission, sometimes you got to work 40 hours. To make a $200,000 commission, it could take 1 minute. So you just keep all your care the same, but make sure you're dealing with people that will make you money. Now your question, go ahead.
It's okay. I was going to say, I think that's a really important lesson because I've already learned that. I mean, I'm only 3 years in business, and sometimes, you know, I'm writing a proposal for someone. It's taking me, you know, a few hours, and then they're not the ideal client. So I think exactly what you're saying is making sure you're spending time on your ideal clients. It's worthy of your time. They're respecting you just as much as you're respecting them. And I think that's a number one thing for entrepreneurs is that respect that you get. I mean, I personally have a policy in my own business that I learned from another company I started at an IT consulting firm. They literally had in their policy that they didn't work with assholes. And that's something that I followed as well. Is I've had many times where I've had people reach out to me and it's not worth my time. They haven't treated me well. It's not worth my effort. And for you, I know you've dealt with many clients or many people prospecting, and it's just not worth your time. You'd rather put all your time and energy who is just as respectful to you. And at the end of the day, you're building better relationships, and you're not wasting your time, and you're not, you know, pulling out your hair with people who don't respect you back.
The reason I like to mentor people is because when I got into the business, as I said, I had no help at all. Nobody helped me. We had a thing called duty where you would take phone calls, and that would be the only time I'd get any business if I didn't go out canvassing. But I mean, there's so many people I should have been dealing with. All my family's friends I should have been dealing with, you know, to see if they, you know, they own buildings, et cetera, et cetera. It just took me time. So I knew that when I'd see a new person come into the office, and in real estate, they come in at 18 to 80.
Wow.
And when I see them coming in, you can see the frustration. So I always would come to them and say, look, here's some tips I'd give you. And I'd even start sharing some listings, like, you know, I'd help them get listings and help. And then over time, they wouldn't need me anymore, and they'd have their own clients. But sometimes they can do that in 3 months, sometimes 3 years.
Right.
But it's nice to have someone walk up to your door and say, how's it going? Because believe me, in life, you know, it's hard enough when nobody's there to support you. But when you're sitting in your office and someone comes to your door, basically most people would just shut the door on me. They didn't have time for me. They're making a living, right? But I would always take the time, you know, just share a cup of coffee and just try to give advice. And next thing you know, they're coming for advice all the time, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, I've got time.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. It's definitely something that I'm taking in my own business as well. Is, you know, I have a few interns right now, and I received wonderful treatment from mentors and from people when I just graduated. I had wonderful volunteer experience with companies. I have a few mentors right now that, you know, they own their own marketing companies, and they give me their ear, they give me advice, they give me referrals. And that's something that I want to continue to give to other generations and to other entrepreneurs and other people who are interested in marketing and trying to figure that out. Because again, I have nothing but time to give to those people. And I really enjoy that. And I want to give back to the people who had spent time on me that they didn't need to, but I want to give back to that.
Yeah.
So speaking of mentors, do you have a professional mentor or someone who inspires your career?
No, not at this point.
Okay.
No.
What would you say is one piece of valuable advice you could give to someone who wants to get in real estate?
Well, one thing, it's pretty scary. It's very intimidating to get in now because it's almost like a university degree they made you take. And it's a long, drawn-out course, and a lot of people are cheating on it to get in because I have people who don't even speak English calling me and saying, please educate me on how I can rent this space because I don't know anything about the business, right?
Right.
So I know there's a lot of cheating going on, but it is very, very demanding. And I don't think that super intelligent people do well in real estate because they think too much. We've had a lot of super intelligent people come in. We had a dean of York University work for us, and he failed because he wanted to talk the people out of doing the deal. All he wanted to do is, this doesn't make sense, you know what I mean? And if you get someone who's not quite as, genius level, they will do what they can to make the deal.
Right.
Make both sides happy and make the deal, as opposed to that. But that's why you find so many people who come from out of the service industry do well.
Right. Because they have the customer service, they have, they can talk, they can, what's the word called? Finesse something and that sort of thing. That totally makes sense. Is there a resource or something that has been beneficial to your career?
I don't know. Can't think of anything.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Just meeting people.
Like networking, etc. So you've been in real estate for over 40 years. Yeah. If you weren't doing real estate, or if you want to try something else, what would it be, and why aren't you doing it?
Well, I'm at a good stage where I'm dealing with only good people at this point, and they keep calling me. Things are tough right now because the spaces are all full. Nobody's leaving. I think a lot of landlords are afraid to push people out, but it will happen over time. I don't know, probably travel. Natalia and I want to do some traveling, so if this world ever gets back to the way it was, plus we'd like to start spending some time down south, maybe 2 weeks and then a month and then 2 months, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But doing some travel.
Yeah. So speaking of that, not sure if that means retirement or anything, but what is your viewpoint on retiring after a successful career? Like, what is your mindset on that?
I like going to the office for a couple hours every day. I like still seeing people. I like making money still, because to retire, you've got to watch what you're doing, right?
Right.
And I don't know. I haven't even thought about retirement yet. I'm still happy, still making a little bit of money, so we'll see where the future holds.
That's good. If you could do another career or another hobby, what would you be doing?
Gosh, I don't know. I do what I want to do, so I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing.
Okay. Can you name 3 things that someone has told you are good at, or what they admire you for?
Oh boy. Well, I'm a good leader, I guess people will say. Dedicated to whatever I do. If I say I'm going to do it, I definitely finish off doing it. I'm a happy person. I like to keep people happy. I'm always the first one who comes in, talks to everybody in the office or whatever situation is, try to make them comfortable. Yeah. Usually you'll see people who don't talk to anybody, but they'll talk to you because they'll come to your office, but they won't talk to anybody else really, right?
Right. Yep.
That's because you come with no ties. You're not trying to get anything out of anyone other than a laugh.
Right.
And then they get comfortable with that. And
just making them feel comfortable and confident. That's really great. What is one thing you wish someone had shared with you before you got into the work world?
Direction. I probably, like I said, my dad was a company man, and he wanted his boys to just, come in and learn their way on their own. I did not like it at the time, but I appreciate why he did what he did, right? It was the best thing he ever could have done.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know.
Yeah. okay. What is one accomplishment you're extremely proud of?
My family, I guess. Yeah, I've got 2 wonderful children, and I just got one married off in December. And no, very proud of our children. Love my wife. I don't know what else. Just
Anything in your career that sticks out?
Not really. I guess a few of the boards I've been on, I've been kind of proud of being on them, and how we changed direction through our association.
Yeah.
But no, just some big plaza deals I've done and stuff like that. You know, there's deals that seem impossible when you make them, and they always close. That's what I always say. Someone always comes to me and says, "Oh my gosh, this deal's blowing up. It's never going to go." I said, "No, they always close."
Right.
So 99.9% of the time they do, and they say you're a genius, and I say, "No, I just know what it's like suffering." You know, on the day of a closing.
Just being patient.
And there's not enough money to close it, right?
Right. Being patient, waiting it out,
Yeah.
etc. Yeah, that makes sense. Is there anything memorable from the volunteer work that you've done? Anything that sticks out in your mind?
Oh boy, I had Alan Thicke at our hospital bar one year, and he sat at our table. He was quite nice and entertaining. Lots of celebrity stuff like that. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun. A lot of golf tournaments. A lot of just different rock groups we've had in to support different foundations. Yeah, lots of fun stuff. A lot of fun people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So real estate, you've done primarily in the Greater Toronto area. If you could move that anywhere in the world, where would you want to do it?
I don't know. I think I was in the right place at the right time, because Brampton was only about 35,000, and now they're at 700,000. So I mean, I've sort of been around for the right development time. I've had, thoughts of being elsewhere, like, New York City or LA or something like that, but I wouldn't have my family, I wouldn't have my life. I mean, so I could never dream of something like that. But at the time, you could have started out anywhere in real estate.
Yeah.
Right?
So this one might be a little bit hard, but I like to ask it anyways. What random stranger had an impact on your life? It could be someone that wasn't a stranger, but sometimes it's interesting the examples that I get from people.
There's a few, but I've really got one that'll blow your mind. I remember when I had a stupid time in my life, I was smoking cigarettes, and it's when I got into real estate, everybody had a coffee and everyone had a cigarette when you went to the meeting. So I started smoking for a couple of years, and then would puff on the odd one from then on. But it's the funniest thing. I remember I was going to visit a dentist in Toronto for a signature on a deal. And I'm walking into the dentist's office, and a woman goes by me, and I go, she says, "Stop smoking, stupid." And then from that moment, I just thought, oh my gosh, and that hit me so hard. Isn't that crazy? It hit me so hard, and every time I think of a thing about a stranger, I'll never forget that woman. It's just the way she said it, right?
Yeah.
And I think it to myself lots of time when I see people smoking and coughing.
Yeah.
Should just say it to them. But that's
an interesting one, and something that stuck with you.
Yeah, there's lots of other ones, but I mean that one's just like a slap in the face.
Yeah, right? Wow, that's really, really interesting. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, of course, this podcast, this series has primarily been me interviewing women in the workplace, women in different industries. What can you share with us about your experience of working with other females in the workplace? I know that you primarily come from a business that maybe is majority male, and I'm sure throughout the years it's changed.
No, it's been pretty female dominant.
Okay, so what can you share with us about what you've seen, positive, negative, what you see for the future?
Well, what I saw when I first got into business is there was a lady in our office, and I went with her once to a meeting in Georgetown, and she was going to get a building listed. And when we got in the meeting, we were talking, and then she went maybe for a drink or to the washroom, and the guy said, "Get rid of the broad and we'll do the deal." And I went, "What?" And so that sort of caught me. And many, many times I've seen it over the years where women are held back basically because it's a man's world, right?
Right.
But you don't notice it much now. I get a lot of calls from women who do franchises, like, they might be looking after Mr. Submarine, so they're calling me all the time. And treated just like anybody else now. But back then it was a rough world. Very rough.
Do you have any examples of ways that you've been an ally to women in the workplace?
Well, I've mentored a few. Yeah, definitely helped them out. And sent them in the right direction, because when people get into commercial, they want to do everything. They want to sell buildings, businesses, restaurant, everything, and you can't do everything. Right. And I have a few guys in my office that do, but they're all over Ontario, all day, every day. Me, I'm a Brampton guy. I could have gone to Mississauga, I could have gone elsewhere, but try, unless it's a big deal. I'll try to just stay in Brampton because you got a family, right? When your kids are young and that, you don't want to be running all over the place.
Right.
Next thing you know, you're doing retail in the day, selling houses at night, right?
Right. Yep, that completely makes sense. So we're obviously still in a pandemic. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, what is advice that you could give to someone right now who is looking to start their own business? Any words of encouragement that you can share?
Well, just do something that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
That's all. But just make sure that if you're going to go in, you got to go all in. Don't just, throw money at something. You don't really need a lot of money to get going, but you do, as time goes on, you do have to, like I said, keep in touch with people, bug them, flyer them,
yes.
emails, everything. You've got to be in touch and you got to care. You can't just think, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm just going to rake in the money. You have to care because following the care comes the money.
Right. That completely makes sense. The last question I have for you is, do you have a personal quote or mantra that you say or that kind of helps keep you motivated? Do
unto others as you have them do unto you. And I live my life by that. I always find that it comes back in spades for you. Like someone will be there for you one day, whether it be business, personal, or whatever, that you never dreamt would be there, right? And they'll be there and you won't believe they're there. But it's because of what you did to build up that foundation of friendship or business.
Yeah, that I really like that. And it's very true. I mean, sometimes you don't realize the impact that you have on people, and you don't realize how something that to you was very small was huge to them.
Yeah.
And again, just that karma of that coming back to you. You never know if it will come back tomorrow, in 10 years. I know sometimes that shocks me if I haven't spoken to someone in years and they reach out to me about business or mentoring or something. And again, it's something so small you didn't even know that they were listening or caring about what you were doing. And it's really cool when that kind of comes back to you as well.
Yeah, well, the more people you meet, the luckier you get. That's another one. The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much
for
speaking with me. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to share with us before you leave?
No, I don't think so. That's good.
Okay, awesome. Where can we find you if people are interested in real estate, if they're looking for advice, if they're looking
anytime.
For any sort of space, whether it's residential or commercial, where can we find you?
Or if they have questions about getting into the business, I'd be happy to talk to anybody at any time. Tim Mitchell at royallepage.ca or 416-500-1400, anytime.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much, Seth.
Well, thanks so much, honey.
Love you so much.
Love
and
you too.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening.